My garden is so overgrown lately that I'm almost embarrassed by it. It's just everywhere. I've got so many things on my to-do list to do, but I'm not embarrassed by it on purpose. Because even when your garden gets like this, if like me, it's a big source of joy, you don't want to lose that. So my video today is on 5 tips of how to cope with an overgrown garden and still love it. So the first thing is the most important. I think that you need to be radically optimistic for everything that you see. Now, I'm not that way with everything with gardening. When cucumber beetles come, I get enraged. And when squirrels take a bite out of my tomatoes, I hate that. I find it really hard to be optimistic in those situations. But when the thing is that things have gotten away from me, that the garden is overgrown, maybe things are dying and things are getting out of hand, then I find it really useful to look for that silver lining and find that silver lining. And I think this is especially important if maybe you're not that way everywhere else in your life. It's a really good exercise for mental wellness as well. So, for example, let's look around here. I have this sunflower that probably I should have taken out. It looks pretty sad. Most of the seeds are gone, but you know, it attracted pollinators for a while there, and if it was bothering me that much, then I would have taken it out. And actually, it's got a little baby here as well. So for the sake of the baby, maybe it's a good thing that I didn't have it there. Let's see. Over here you can see I've got a tomato plant that for sure I haven't fed well this year. The leaves are all purple. It thinks that it's not happy, but it's probably still going to give me some tomatoes. And it's better than if I didn't have a tomato plant. So it's still nice that it's there. You know, I look around and I have a lot of trouble doing the weeding lately. So I have these spots like this where I can't even really walk through. It's all just overgrown with things that I don't want to be here, but they're good for the pollinators. And my husband thinks it's pretty neat how it's like going through a jungle. So you can always find something. Oh, and here are my zucchini, which I did actually take a bunch of them yesterday, but they've gotten out of hand. But I've enjoyed the zucchini. So that just means that I got more harvest than I wanted, and that's a good problem to have. My second tip is to have ever-shifting priorities. So these peas, for sure, I should have taken them out long ago. They are dead, they're going to seed. Optimism, I have free seeds, that's wonderful. But this isn't really my priority right now. I'd rather spend my energy in harvesting beans because I know that if I harvest my beans, I'm more likely to get a bigger bean crop. So letting things go like that, walking away, this plant as well, I had intended to take the whole thing out. I only took half of it out. Now it doesn't look very good. I don't know, it's still making a couple of squash. Not my priority right now. So let's go over to where I can have some joy. So my loofah is definitely overgrown and going around, and I do want this to go up the trellis. So I'm gonna spend my energy putting this a little bit more up its trellis, encouraging it to go. And that's gonna give me much more joy than in doing a task that at the moment doesn't mean nearly as much to me. Ooh, here's some beans too. Yeah, look at my loofah. So that is definitely giving me more joy than taking out some peas that are gonna be just as dead next week as they are right now. The third tip is to spend a little time in the garden just sort of noticing what's going on. So I'm looking at my corn and seeing how close it's getting, which is kind of an exciting thing. I see I've got a little spaghetti squash down here that I might not have noticed. And I'm not very task-oriented when I do that. It's just nice to spend a couple of minutes out looking around, seeing what pollinators are there. Ooh, if I find something, I like to do a little tasting while I'm out here too. Being optimistic. Oh, Noticing if you've got a watermelon that you didn't know about, and just tucking it back under. Just slowing down and being a little bit mindful in the garden can restore your joy in it, even if you're not really getting very much done at the time. Just be okay with, this is what your garden's for sometimes. It's not just a place where there are chores to happen. My fourth tip is a little bit the opposite of not doing things. It's to be ruthless when you do things. Be mariekondo. So in the garden, sometimes I look around and I notice a plant that is, you know, the sunflower I don't mind. This sunflower is spent, but it's not, you know, doing one thing one way or the other for me. But other areas I may find, and I know I have a sunberry over here somewhere. There it is. Oh, plant tip over. I may find plants that I just kind of regret. I look at them and I don't love them. So mariekondo, it does not bring me joy. I'm gonna just get rid of this. This is probably the next thing on my to-do list, to chop the whole thing out and not worry about it. Old me might have thought that that's kind of wasteful. I've put effort into bringing the sunberry here. It's nice to have something to show for it. I don't want a bare patch in the garden, blah, 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 excuse. Not bringing me joy. So I can cut it out. The same thing if I have, you know, a broken stalk or tendrils. Rather than trying to hold on to this corn right here, if it's bothering me, if I'm hitting my head on it, you can just cut it off. And it feels really good to be able to give yourself the freedom to make those sorts of decisions in the garden as well, instead of what you should do, what the book says you should do. It doesn't bring you joy, just get rid of it. You can grow something else instead. And my last tip is to get help. So right where I'm standing was horribly overgrown with weeds, like most of my garden is. But here was bothering me quite a bit because it was also a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and it made it harder to reach my currants. The kids and I would be out here getting bitten by mosquitoes. It was turning into not as fun a place to be. And lately I have found it really hard to do weeding, which is why everything is so overgrown. But my lovely husband helped and just came through and got everything out. And if you have somebody who's willing to do that for you, or if you have the luxury of being able to afford to hire help, sometimes that can really make quite a difference as well. That you don't have to do everything yourself, and that sometimes your job is more in orchestrating how this can be an enjoyable space and not necessarily in doing all of the tasks yourself. So there you have it, in my overgrown, not as productive as it could be garden, where certain things would do much better if I paid more attention to them. Certain things have suffered due to me being worried about something else. I still love it and I'm okay with that. If it mattered to me, I would have put more effort into one area or another. What matters to me is loving the garden, and I hope that that's what matters to you as well. Oh. There we go.
Bring it over here.
It's going to be easier said than done.